Hey, everybody, welcome back to In Good Company. I'm your host, Jeremy McKellar. And today I'm genuinely excited about this conversation because for me, it sits right at the intersection of two things that I love, wine and storytelling. My guest today is Chasity Cooper. Chasity is a wine culture expert, an award-winning journalist, a published author, and the CEO and founder of Cheers to That LLC. She was named 2024 Wine Enthusiast Future 40 Tastemaker, which recognizes the people shaping the future of the wine industry. She has a book, Wine Convo Generator. She's written for over 30 publications, including Wine Enthusiast, Food and Wine, Vine Pair, and the Chicago Tribune. She's a WSET candidate. That's one of the most prestigious wine certifications in the world. And through her company, Cheers to That, she helps food, beverage, and hospitality brands tell their stories through curated events, marketing strategy, and immersive experiences. But for me, what I love most about Chastity's story is this. She didn't take the traditional wine route. She went from a communications career in DC to falling in love with Spanish wine during a study abroad trip in Madrid to now being one of the most respected voices in wine culture, all while centering the experiences of Black and Brown communities. As a wine lover, I wanted to learn from her today just as much as I want you all to. So Chastity, thank you for being here. And it's always great to be in good company. So thank you.
Yes. That was great.
I hope
Thank
I
you
did
so
it
much for
justice. I hope I
no,
did it
that was
justice.
I was like over 30? Like again, thank you so much because again that gives me the opportunity to really reflect on the career and experiences I've had. So that was an incredible introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. We love to give people their flowers. You've got an extensive and an amazing background. I had to do some breath work on that introduction, but I'm so glad that you're here. And thank you for your time. Before we jump into just questions, I love to just hear a little bit about your background, about your journey. Then you grew up in Evanston. You went to Syracuse. As I mentioned, you studied abroad in Madrid. So you got a lot of wealth of experiences. But take us back to where your origin story, how everything began.
Yeah, so I was born in Galveston, Texas. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
down in Texas for until second grade, moved to
Mm,
Evanston in third grade, and for about 10 years was so lucky to call this place home. Well, I live on the north side of Chicago now, but it's
North side.
still, yeah, still very much so connected to Evanston, still serve on a number of different boards and in different community organizations. But something I really told myself upon moving to Evanston, even as a kid, I was like, I definitely want to go away for school. Like the more I matriculated, the more I found myself getting involved in organizations that allow for me to travel and go see different places and experience different people. And so when senior year came, my mom came into my room. She's like, you have two options and you need to pick one. It was either Spelman or Syracuse. And I was like, well, I do have a lot of orange and blue, so that means I wouldn't have to change up the wardrobe too much. End up choosing Syracuse, which actually was the 4 years so amazing. It really was an integral part of my wine experience, studying abroad in Madrid for the summer of the World Cup, actually. So that is putting us exactly at 16 years. And I was so excited because
Oh wow.
Spain won that year. Yeah, I'd never
I
seen
bet that was amazing.
it was incredible. It was almost like I didn't know the impact and the power of football on that
Mm-hmm.
global level.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the same time that the Blackhawks had gone to the Stanley Cup. It was just like an exciting summer. And so
Mm-hmm.
coming back, graduating from school, and moving to the nation's capital, I was like, I need something to do. I'm a recent grad, don't have a lot of money, I'm bored. Lo and behold, Scandal comes on TV. Olivia Pope is rocking the trench coat, walking around the nation's capital, figuratively, and she's drinking great wine and eating popcorn for dinner. So we were very much so aligned in that season
Mm-hmm.
of my
Yeah, yeah.
but it was also such an incredible opportunity for me to see representation of Black women enjoying fine wine. So that was goodness over a decade ago. And
Wow.
since then, yeah, I've been lucky enough to travel to so many different countries, meet so many different winemakers and negotiants, and talk to so many different people who are passionate about fermented grape juice. And now I'm here and we're in 2026 and it's such a unique time, just not only in the world, but also in the world of wine and how a lot of us are just reimagining how we want to show up. So I'm excited to delve deeper into that and continue to explore, my own love and passion for wine.
Yeah. Nah, definitely. You got a wealth of experiences for sure. Thank you for giving us the Spark Notes version of it, but definitely want to dive into that. As you mentioned, that's probably top of mind for you. How is the wine industry today? How do people show up? How are you showing up in it, yourself, and what's top of mind for you with the wine
Absolutely.
industry?
Yeah. So the wine industry, I say over the last 2 years, has experienced, I don't want to say, I want to be mindful of the words that I choose, but
Yep.
what we started to see in like 23, 24, a lot of media talking about millennials and Gen Z aren't drinking enough wine.
I've been
And
seeing a lot of that.
yeah, we're not drinking enough wine. We're not really going out to restaurants and buying bottles, or we're not going to, the specialty stores. And so I think at that time, and just knowing where the economy was headed, given, and I'm not going to get too political, but the
Yep.
tariffs had a huge impact on the wine industry. And so 2024, 2025, just a really tough time as far as like importing and exporting went. There was some downturn as far as like consumption went, but I'm still very much so optimistic about where the industry is going, where we're at right now. I think, and I've talked to a number of people about this. I have the opportunity to serve on two different boards that
Hmm.
are adjacent to the wine industry, the Barraging Project and Batonage, and both serve similar purposes. But what they're both finding right now is that we have to reimagine how we are, taking up space in this industry, because everybody remembers in 2020, that summer when our country experienced that racial reckoning, that happened across
Hmm.
multiple industries, including wine. And so it
Hmm.
was,
Hmm.
I won't delve too much into that. Was it interesting? Yes. Did a lot of opportunities come forth from that moment? Totally. But it's kind of over now. Like the
Hmm.
DEI initiatives, some of the
Hmm.
money that was really put into those organizations and initiatives has dwindled. And so now it's like, okay, we're in this new space. We still believe that Black and Brown people deserve to take up space in this industry. We still believe that women
Definitely.
deserve to have equal opportunity. And where do we go from here? So I think on the
Hmm.
consumer end, people are still curious about wine. People
Definitely.
still want to expand their palates, but it's also from an industry and trade perspective, we have to do some reconfiguring, we have to do some tinkering, and we all just have to get back to being one band, one sound.
No, definitely, definitely. And to that, are you saying that's probably impacting people that may be looking to build their own wine brands and just the overall industry, new wine experiences as well. Is that what you're saying? Those, because I think from the consumer side, like you mentioned, people are still interested in wine, at least for me. But if we probably do a larger poll, it's probably different for the younger generation. But I think, yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. I think how are businesses, I guess, being impacted, especially businesses of color as well, that are trying to emerge in these spaces.
Yeah, I think that there is still excitement and this passion to take up space. Again, keeping in mind the logistics, right? Keeping in mind the logistics. If I am, let's say I want to make a wine, I'm based here in Chicago.
Hmm.
I could get my grapes from anywhere, but what's probably going to be easiest for me is to go, I don't know, west to California and,
Hmm.
seek
Hmm.
out companies that have good fruit or extra fruit. Or I could go north to Michigan. And, really, we're talking about branding and marketing and cost effectiveness and the materials that go into making wine. So I'm still seeing the excitement about people wanting to get their own labels on shelves. Something else that I forgot to mention, the boom of non-alcoholic wines
Yeah,
and
I've been
beverages.
seeing that.
Yeah, so there's been a growth in that area a lot, which of course, amazing. We want to make sure that people who choose not to indulge in alcohol also feel a part of the conversation. And so I
Definitely.
think I've been seeing a lot of people moving in that space and starting, their own brands, whether they're non-alc or you're moving into like THC and CBD. So the space is still very ripe for opportunity, but I think a lot of people are considering those logistics. How am I going to get my materials to and from where they need to go? How am I going to get on the shelves of these big box stores or in these small retailers? And so there's just a lot to think about, but I don't want to negate the fact that there is still excitement and people are very much so like, I want to, make this wine and I want people to enjoy it.
No, definitely. That's big. I think you having that lens of seeing on the consumer side and then also understanding, hey, what it actually takes to actually build, a wine brand and what goes into that. It's a lot of different moving pieces. Would you ever look at doing your own, Chastity Cooper's finest?
You know, so many friends of mine have asked that over the years. If I ever made a wine, it would be limited edition, it'd be a sparkling, and
Okay.
it would just be like the opportunity would have to be aligned. So we're talking about the region, the winemaker, and just being in the position to be like, y'all, once this is gone, I mean, of course, I'm gonna keep a couple cases for myself, but once this
Keep
is
a
gone,
couple.
yeah, once it's gone, I'm not doing this again because it takes so much to make. But that's definitely down the line when I have more time to be able to like, oh, I wanna make a sparkling. Let me go to France or Spain and play around with that.
Yeah. Nah, definitely. Definitely not. Hey, I look forward to it. If you had a limited edition, I'll definitely be signing up for sure. It definitely support that. I know we got a few different people that are part of some brands, and so I always try to support. And I know that even just going to different wine festivals and different wineries and just learning about the process, I know that it's a lot, to take on. So it's definitely a good, goal to have to work towards. For you, being in the wine industry, what's something that you think that people in your industry would disagree with, or a stance that you have that you believe currently?
That's a great question. I think my peers or colleagues in wine would disagree with me, but I think whenever these trends that we see on TikTok, Instagram when they come alive, that's a ripe opportunity for the industry and brands to thoughtfully jump on them. Give an example. Last year, was it last year? It might have been last year, it might have been 2024. When people were putting
Mhm.
slices of jalapeno into their wine, it was last year. It was last year.
I heard about that.
It was people were like, oh, like I have a Savi B, or I'm like putting some in my, I'm freezing these slices and putting them in my rosé. Cute. People
Hmm.
didn't quite understand like phenolics, and it's science at the end of the day. There is a strong, green, peppery spiciness that
Hmm.
comes from a jalapeno, whether you keep the seeds in it or not.
Hmm.
Wine itself, especially something like Sauvignon Blanc, depending on where you get it from, but let's say we got it from New Zealand, has a strong essence of grassiness, of, those phenolics that people tend to love about Sauvignon Blanc. It's also very minerally and acidic. So when you put those two things together, it's like this is like an explosion in my mouth, or it's like,
It
creating
actually
some
works.
different, yeah, it works. And so I think that could have been instead of people, and I have to also watch myself because sometimes the wine snob hat might come on. I'm like, no, Chess, we want to educate the people. We want to empower people to explore with their palate. That's
Hmm.
always an opportunity for whether you make a soft blanc or a rosé or, a white wine to educate your audience. Like, this is like, it's strange. You might think it's strange, but it's something cool to try. And so I would encourage those in the wine industry to really tap into, like, keep an eye on trends because they
Hmm.
tend to drive the way in which, culture goes, the way in which people's tastes tend to evolve. And so I don't know if people would disagree with me, but I would absolutely say get you a couple millennials and Gen Z people on the roster and have
Yeah.
them keep an eye on the trends that are happening in beverage and in food and find your way to fit into that and be a part of the conversation.
No, that's big. I think having a pulse to what the culture is saying, you got to be able to speak to what's happening in the room and read in the room
Exactly.
sometimes. And yeah, that's a great point. You know, to that, as you mentioned, I think there's a group probably people wine aficionados that may be very technical, very focused on the technicality of wine for people that are trying to get into it, learn more, and they may feel a little bit intimidated. What do you normally say to people like that? Because I always say that, or at least someone told me is focus on the things that you like, that tastes well, you develop your palate, and then you can take your own learning journey as you want to. But also, there's a lot of people that's just like intimidated about it. Sometimes they don't necessarily know, how to just build their love or their interest for it.
I typically encourage people to build on what they love, but also ask all of the questions. I think
Mhm.
being able to go to your local wine shop, go to your local restaurant, not being afraid to sit at the bar, talk to the beverage director, the sommelier. Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a fellow wine journalist. She's working on a story and asked me
Mhm.
about AI and wine. And if you're at the bar, you see somebody using, ChatGPT or
Mhm.
Claude to, ask questions about wine. There's a time and place for it, but if there is a person who's being paid by the hour
Yeah.
or salary, please ask them the things, like, ask them all the questions. And so I think being able to remove that, it's really pride. Put your pride aside, accept that you don't know what you don't know, and engage in conversation. We can't be afraid to really seek that knowledge when we really want it. And it's
Mhm.
also important to, like, get to know your community. So if I live in Charlotte, I'm going to my local wine bar. I'm going to wine dinners. I'm going to
Mhm.
wine festivals and just like really immersing myself in that community. And then maybe looking outside of Charlotte. Are there other, bigger wine festivals across the country? Are there, people who specifically focus on agriculture that I'm interested in, maybe tapping them and asking them questions. So really just using the opportunity to, learn and grow based on what your interests are and not being afraid to ask questions.
I definitely. And to that point, I've just started to go down a rabbit hole. There's a lot of different wineries here in North Carolina for those that's listening that are in North Carolina. So you have a lot of options. And then also, I just love the stories too behind it, different stories of how, different wineries have been built and even unique wines, like you mentioned, the non-alcoholic wines. There's a blue wine as well. The stories behind those, I think, definitely go along with making the experience great. So I love that. And you probably resonate with that to this. So correct me. So when you went over to Spain, is that where you first started to get into, or did you already have some exposure and were learning? How was that? 'Cause I wanted to know how you like kind of like built your knowledge and understanding from where it is today.
Yeah, that's a great question. Being on the study abroad trip, part of like the experience was going on different excursions or, different weekend activities. This was one of the last ones we did before the trip ended, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm 21. I've never been to a proper winery. This is the perfect opportunity." When I tell you that experience is still so visceral, like, I remember getting off of the bus and how dry it was, seeing the
Mhm.
vines, going through the cellar, pairing the Spanish wines with the Spanish cheese. So I
Wow.
didn't know much of anything because, growing up here in, Chicagoland area, wine was not on the table. And, being that I'm Black too, like, that just wasn't something
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
readily exposed
One
to.
or two
Did
pairings.
I yeah, did I see Yellowtail and Barefoot, on the tables at the cookouts? Yes, I did, but that was it, really. And
Hmm.
so, fast forward, that was what, 2010. Fast forward to I'll say 2017. Yeah, 2017. I really was like, okay, I want this to be more than me writing, blogging about wine. I want this to become more than a hobby. I reached
Mhm.
out to, at the time, was a fairly brand new shop in DC. Reached out
Mhm.
to the owners. I was like, hey, I love wine. I want to learn more about it. Can I be an apprentice? They
Mm.
were like, you can work for us. I was like, oh, I can get paid. Let's do it. So I worked
That
part-time at
sounds
this
great.
yeah, it was awesome, like, being around people who loved wine, and they're actually the store is actually turning 10 years this year, so shout out to Grand
Wow.
Catha in DC.
Okay.
But, yeah, but being able to, learn from the owners, learn from other people who just had this passion for wine, be around so many different styles, specifically from Latin America, that's where they focused on, bringing their wines from. And so
Mhm.
it just opened my world so much. And I remember one time the owners were like, hey, we're doing this rotating activity. Here's a bottle. Go home and write some tasting notes on it. I said, okay, like say less, whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
I take home a bottle of Gavi and I do what I do best. And I research, I
Mhm.
write, and I send this beautiful paragraph to the entire team. And so I go into the shop for my next shift, and one of the owners is like, you wrote this? I was like, yeah, didn't y'all give me that, that assignment? He's like, this is really, really good. And so being affirmed in that moment, I was like, okay, there's more to
More
this.
to
And
the
so yeah, I left DC summer of 2017, moved to New York, and that's when I was like, okay, I want to start studying. So I took the WSET 1, passed in 2018, and then I was like, okay, this is expensive. I need somebody to pay for this. Applied
Mhm.
for a scholarship, got the scholarship. That allowed for me to take 2 and 3.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and that was all during the pandemic because I had nothing but time. So studied, took those exams, passed those exams. And so officially in May, it'll be 5 years since I received my WSET level 3 certification with merit. Yeah, which is nuts. Like, where did time go?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's crazy. And so, to the earlier point you made, I did start my diploma journey. It's one of the hardest things. I have some friends that just passed, which shout out to them.
Mhm.
Will eventually return to my diploma journey, but I think right now I am still very much so focused on connecting people to very authentic experiences in wine, writing about it, being able to travel when I
Mhm.
can. And so that's really what kind of led me to want to learn more about it in a formal setting, but also where I'm finding myself right now is like I need to push myself to learn more about certain grape varietals, certain
Yeah.
styles, certain regions. And so it's very much so still, there's the formal setting that I will eventually return to. But right now it's like, okay, girl, you have the tools. Continue to learn, continue to grow so that when you're ready to go back to your WSET diploma journey, I'll be prepared for that.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think one of our first guests, Shay Gilker, she's actually you said level 2. I got to connect you all too as well. She's based here in
Yes,
Charlotte.
please.
So you mentioned, hey, going back into studying and getting into that mode. Do you get to a point to where you're like, hey, I know enough, um, or, or I guess what's the drive, to continue to keep on going for somebody that's like pursuing that track. And I got to catch up with y'all. I'm gonna get there too one of these days.
Yes, please. It's honestly love the fact that I enjoy being a lifelong student, whether it's wine, whether it's marketing, communications, philanthropy, whatever. I love learning. And so I don't think I'll ever know everything there is about wine
Mhm.
because so much is constantly changing. I am actually looking to go to Germany I'm looking to go to Germany in
Wow.
April just
Okay.
because again, it's a region I've never been to,
Hmm.
a language I do not know, so why not kind of immerse myself in, that culture? And yes, everybody knows that, great Riesling comes from Germany, but they also make really good sparkling wine called Sekt, Sekt, that I absolutely adore. Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, people automatically think of sparkling wine and champagne's great, but there are so many different styles of sparkling wine, Franciacorta, Cremant, Cava, you name it. But I want to continue to challenge myself to learn more about regions, to learn more about the history of these places, but also how do I connect that to now? Like, I live in Chicago. I'm in the Midwest. What are the areas around that also do wine well? So, Missouri is actually the first American viticulture area known, like, historically. I think a lot of people think, oh,
Wow.
Napa, Napa, Napa. Missouri, shout out to the Midwest, is known for being the first AVA, and also Ohio, Indiana, like a lot of these places in the Midwest played a huge role in American wine. And so I think for me, it's about, knowing what I know about the past, but also what do we have, what's happening in the present, and where do we want to go? Something I've been able to have fun with, particularly living in Chicago, is just like our food scene. We have so many different styles of food
Yeah.
available,
Heard y'all got
and a
the
couple
food.
years we have the food, yeah. And so a couple years ago, I pitched the Chicago Tribune. I was like, "Hey, what if I found some of Chicago's most notable foods and paired them with wine?" And duh. I was like, great. And so I got pizza, and this was like, it was nuts. It was like so much food, but I got pizza. I got, what else did I get? Pizza. I got Hibberito, which is a sandwich made of plantain, and there's like incredible things between the
Oh,
two
really?
slices of plantain. Yeah, very good.
Okay. Okay.
Italian beef, and I think I might have gotten some Garrett's just to like you throw something sweet in there. And so what
Hmm.
the fun thing about that was just again these notable delicacies of Chicago, challenging myself, okay, what are the wines that go really well with these things? And how can I bring Chicagoans who love these foods along, you know, my wine journey, whether they're novice or they've been enjoying wine for, decades, to like have
Hmm.
fun with these two pairings. And so, the history of wine is so deep and so
Hmm.
broad. But I think in order for the industry to continue to engage with consumers, we have to meet people where they are, but
Really are.
also find the parallels where it's like, oh, I didn't know that like this paired well with this or this tasted really good with this. And so, just remembering to have fun with it is important too.
And we trying to keep on having fun with it. Uh, and I didn't know that as well about Missouri. So, you got me over here taking notes. I'm always learning. With that, with your career to where you're at today, I like to ask this question to people, is there a decision that you may have made that everyone may have thought was wrong, but you're glad that you stuck with it? Anything that sticks out to you?
So many. The one that sticks out the most, um, which is probably what helped to start my WSET journey, was moving to New York. 17, going into my 6th year living in our nation's capital. We know what happened in 2016. Don't even talk about that. But I was very much so like, I don't want to be here for that. And so
Mhm,
applied for
mhm.
jobs in New York. I ended up getting a verbal offer. So I'm like packing up my apartment. I found a place to live in New York. I put in my 2 weeks notice. Come to
Mhm.
find out, the verbal offer gets rescinded.
Wow.
Yeah, like this is a week before I'm supposed to move. And so I remember telling my mom, and Black moms are very much so like, who do I need to go fight? Who do I
Yeah,
need to
we're
talk
gonna
to?
ride for it.
Yes, every time. And I'm like, hey, I am 20. I was at 28 at the time. I was like, it's fine. I'm still going to move to New York. Making that very challenging yet stretching decision
Mhm,
really did open up my world to the the kind of renaissance that New York was starting to have around wine. So being able to witness, a many of the black owned wine shops in Brooklyn and being able to build rapport with those owners. experiencing some of the, really cool wine bars in New York City, being able to like strengthen my pen as far as like having bylines, whether they were wine related or not. So I think back to not necessarily listening to everybody, being like, you should stay in DC. No, I'm going to go and grow, but
Mm-mm.
I'll be back later. And so I think, that move has truly impacted my trajectory, not just personally, but professionally as well.
That's amazing. I know New York is a completely different landscape. Probably a lot of different opportunities as well. Glad you were able to experience that. And I think sometimes, yeah, changing up that environment. You've been in different spaces. You've been in Chicago, DC, also New York. You've been abroad as well. But something about moving to another location that has other opportunities that opens up your mind. I always remember my mentor told me that before I was getting ready to graduate college. He said, because I'm, from North Carolina, pretty much
Hmm.
haven't left necessarily in terms of like living. And he said, hey, I need you to leave and go to California. I could see different opportunities, different, communities, and how to build. And because everything in your own immediate circle isn't always, what's happening outside of that.
Right.
No, no,
Absolutely.
definitely. For you, what's one thing that you wish, looking back 5 years ago, that somebody would have told you, or maybe you telling your younger self?
Ooh, let's see. That was 2021. I would tell that was 5 years ago. I would tell my 32-year-old self, leave the job that's making you
Mhm,
unhappy. Get really clear on how the work you want to do aligns with how you want to feel and not doing things just because people say you should do them. Wine example, during the pandemic, really in 2020, because we were all very much so connected to Zoom, I did a lot of virtual tastings while working full time. So I would have two computers up, and especially around the holidays, it got crazy. So, like, some people would want, middle of the day tastings or like 3 o'clock. And so I stretched myself extremely thin.
mhm,
And after a while, I was like, is this really what I want to do? Just because people say that it's great, it's a great money maker. Um,
mhm,
I just didn't find that it was creating enough joy for me. And I really did miss being in community in person with people, making the choice to, sunset that part of the work
mhm,
that I was doing, making the choice to really hone in on my writing and making smart connections and making investments
mhm.
to make sure that I was putting forth my best effort, particularly when it came to wine. And I took a lot of risks in 2021, traveling abroad, going to certain festivals and events and just making connections. And I
Mhm,
really do, think that had I made the choice to leave the job that was so toxic for me earlier, I probably would have had a little bit more of a runway, or I would have been more mindful of like, okay, this is where I am. What corporate role or what nonprofit role is going to help me get closer to where I really want to be. And so, just trusting myself more. I think that's the overarching thing I would tell my younger self from 5 years ago. Trust yourself.
I think a lot of people deal with that. Even myself, we're making decisions on, hey, where to go in career, where to go in business, where to go in different things.
Hmm.
But, sometimes you just don't know what was that, I guess, that breaking point where you began to just at least learn about that insight that you just shared there.
Yeah, I think it was after I left the company, and later on that week, I was going to Oregon to sit on a panel at a wine, it was a wine writers conference or some sort of wine symposium. And
Hmm.
how, while it was devastating, that departure, it was very much so like in that season, I felt aligned. Like got to travel to Eugene, Oregon for the first time. I'm meeting people who I had long admired from afar. I ended up traveling to a number of other places that year. I think I went to Chianti in
Okay.
Italy, and I
In
spent
Italy.
like 10 days. Yeah, it was a Chianti Classico boot camp. So again, making connections, trusting myself, and believing that, all right, we may be a little bit fun employed right now, but this season right now, Chastity, like,
Mhm.
do all the things, take full advantage. You clearly have shown and proven that you have insight and knowledge that people want. Get it together and make it work for you. I
Mhm.
inevitably ended up going back to work full time a year later. But those, what was that? That was almost a year I was, working for myself. I got to travel. I got
Mhm.
to, see so many different places. I
Liberating.
think that, yeah, it was very liberating because again, at the time, I didn't have my dogs, didn't have my dogs. So there wasn't anything like keeping me at home. It was like, okay, girl, let's go see the world and let's have a good time doing it. And, you know, there were things I could have done differently at that time, but the memories, the lessons I learned, that all has really helped me to make better decisions for myself, but also how I like courageously want to show up in this industry and how I'm grateful that I get to choose. Like I don't have to
Mhm.
do all the things I did 5 years ago. It's very much so that looks like it aligns with me and where I'm at and what I want to learn or what I want to experience. I'm grateful I get to choose now.
You're the wine culture expert. What do you think people misunderstand about what you do, or what you actually plant your flag on?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconception with like when I say I'm a wine culture expert or I'm a sommelier, immediately people are like, "Are you certified?" Yes, yes, I am. And like having to reintroduce those credentials, which is fine because again, general public, they only think of if you're familiar with wine, you might only think of sommeliers in
Mhm.
restaurants.
Mhm.
If you've seen the movie Somm or the documentary Somm, you may think, okay, you have to have Master of Wine or Master Somm behind your name. I think the term wine culture expert, which shout out to my friend Miriam Ahmed, she helped me facilitate that almost 5 years ago,
I
actually.
love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's in kind of like, juxtaposition of like having to explain what a Somm is. We've been, blessed to see examples, particularly of Black and Brown people in spaces culturally. So, like the movie Uncorked that was on
Mhm.
Netflix,
Mm.
the show Kings of Napa, the show Grand Cruise. We've been able to see these examples of Black people, whether they're like working in wine or simply enjoying it. And I think that's why I was so grateful to, ex express my love for being a wine culture expert, but not being married to like I am a som, like I am a wine journalist. Like wine culture expert
Mhm.
kind of encompasses all of that. And I have seen anybody use the phrase. It kind of just, it's not trademarked or anything, but nobody don't try it. But it just
Maybe you should
encompasses.
trademark. Go ahead, trade.
Maybe I should now, but it just encompasses the things I love wine. I love making like cultural references. I love just this notion that I get to, have this expertise, but I'm constantly learning.
Mhm. I love that, and I think that's the beauty of us being in these spaces. We're able to put our stamp on it and bring a little bit more flavor to it. So
Hmm.
definitely. Uh, for you, who's someone that you look at that shaped how you think about wine, and or just even your career in life? Anybody that you point to as a big form of inspiration?
Oh my goodness, there are so many people that I think about. Gosh, career wise, and I think because I struggled with this for a long time, but initially because in 2020, I'll say my career kind of it really popped off 2020, 2021.
Hmm.
And I was, had one foot in working a 9 to 5 and the other foot in, the industry. So for a long time, I was teeter-tottering like, okay, do I, you know, be in wine full time? Do I, only focus on a
Hmm.
corporate career? I can't say that there's anyone specifically who has they've probably navigated certain areas of my career, but really who have crafted the lane that I've made for myself. But if I were to say some individuals, I think from a wine perspective, the McBride sisters, Robin and Andrea are super lovely. I would say them. I would say really I think about all the Black women in wine who have started their own labels, who have opened their own shops, who
Hmm.
have climbed the ladder in certain corporate spaces. There's so many of them that I don't even have enough time to name them. But
Hmm.
just a few. I think about Sarah Pierre at Three Parts
Hmm.
Wine in Atlanta. I think about the owner of Happy Cork, Sunny. I think about
Hmm.
her. I think about here in Chicago, my mentor, Regine Rousseau, who has
Hmm.
just brilliantly carved and created her own business called Shall We Wine. She was actually the first person when I moved home that I reached out to. She tells the story differently. I was very much so looking for a mentor. But she's absolutely a trusted friend and advisor when it comes to wine, and she's definitely played an integral part in welcoming me into certain spaces, bringing me onto certain opportunities that she might be working on. So I think about the sisters who opened up 1010 Wine in Inglewood. I think
Yeah,
about my
got
friend
a chance to
Brene
go there.
Royal. So many people who have been instrumental and inspirational and influential, not just to my wine journey, but also, my professional career. So again, shout out to Black women first and foremost, but also the Black men who have also supported me in my work. I think about my homie Derek Westbrook, who's here in Chicago.
Mm.
Him.
Mm.
I think about John Wesley over on the East Coast in DC. He's been super supportive. Andre
Mhm.
Mack, TJ
Mhm.
Douglas. Like again, these are people who I've had the immense pleasure of connecting with, but also we've been cheering each other on from afar. And also just all of my peers that I've, been able to support over the last truly 6 years. It's just really been dope to see everybody like ascend in their own way. So it's really, been a community or a village, if you will, that has supported my wine.
I could tell that for sure. And even in your answer, right, that is indicative of you being the wine culture expert. You know about the background history on different people that have their imprint on culture right now in the wine space, and you pull from those inspirations. So I definitely admire that for sure. And you embody your name for sure. Being very passionate about the industry, is there a specific problem that you're trying to solve right now, or a solution that you're trying to bring to just the wine space?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think personally, I continue to try not to get wrapped up in the social media of it all because it's so easy to be like, I have to follow the algo. I gotta post every day.
Yeah.
So many people have been like, you should be on TikTok. No, baby, that's just not me.
Hmm.
But what I'm finding, it goes beyond like having followers on social media. While that's great and social media is an amazing tool to connect with others and build community, I want to get back to the essence of wine itself, and that is people
Hmm.
connecting over bottles in person.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think one way in which I achieved that last year, I partnered with one of my homeboys, Corky. He's here in Chicago.
Hmm.
I was like, I want to do a wine walk. He's like, okay, let's
No.
do a wine walk. So last May, we chose 4 locations in Logan Square, so it's like a Northwest Chicago neighborhood. Beautiful. Like I couldn't have asked for better weather. I couldn't have asked for more enthusiastic guests. We went to 4 different locations, each of them very unique to Logan Square. I built rapport with, the owners and the managers over the last few years. And it was just so dope to see like people who might not have ever crossed paths or come together
Hmm.
talk about
Hmm.
wine, talk about their experiences in Chicago. So to create and cultivate more authentic spaces like that, I would say that's my goal.
Hmm.
Also, giving people the agency to yes, go into the wine shop and ask the questions. Google's fine, but ask the people behind the bar, ask the people behind, the desk or the register. Like, let's connect again when it comes to wine. So I'd say that's like the problem or the opportunity that I see to really, be able to bring people together over wine.
I love that. And that, I know we talked a little bit just before starting around like the purpose, doing these sessions is just around connection. So I resonate that with that wholeheartedly. I think wine has that capability of being able to connect people because they having experiences. And so I think that's probably as well, especially with technology. I'm in the technology field and studying AI all the time, but
Hmm.
I think that's our biggest Achilles heel is if we don't have connection, things will continue to regress. And so those connections, I think there's going to be a resurgence of connections and of new experiences. I think you're definitely hitting the mark on the head right there for sure, of what is to come. My last question I got for you. Curious to hear what you have to say about this one. If you could ask the world one question and just get an honest answer, what would it be? So asking the world that one question.
I saw that and I was like, that's such a big question because there's so many directions I could go. Hmm. I think a lot right now about just the division that our domestic culture, our global culture has been experiencing. Especially in America, it's been ridiculous.
You can
And
feel it.
I think yeah, you can feel it. And I think we're starting to see in other places just like things that we've become used to experiencing happen in places that those things would never happen in. So I think
Mhm.
the one question I would ask the world, if someone could do one kind, thoughtful thing for you, just one, right now in this moment, wherever you are, what would that be? Like,
Mm,
it would really give people, I think, it would give them the chance to pause. It would give them the chance to center their needs because I think a lot of times we tend to like go back and forth here and there. We're always thinking about, um, oh, this needs to get done or I need to get this deadline complete.
oh,
But like personally, like at the core of who you are, if there was one kind thing that somebody could do for you right now in this moment, what would that be? And I think that would give
mhm.
people the time to pause. You might get some people very emotional. Yeah, I just think returning to humanity is what we all need to strive for. Being compassionate, sending grace and generosity. Those are just the things that I think we all need to focus on as a culture and a people. So that'd be my question. That'd be my question. I'd hope that people would take it seriously in answer.
Definitely, definitely. So I hope you all heard that one. Talk to me about anything else that you have planned or coming up, or any ways that people can support you.
Yeah, great question. We're in February now. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I am starting to think about what the wine walk will look like this spring. I think I'm going to
Okay.
also extend it to my home town of Evanston, which I know everybody has been like asking me to do. What else? I think honestly, recently became a corporate girly again, so I'm still trying to find how to balance like the corporate work, but also with the work that, keeps me fueled, it keeps me passionate. So
Hmm.
check out my Substack. I'm going to finally publish the Substack post I started last month, sometime this weekend. But that's really going to be a place where, I talk about like wine adjacent things and how wine and its multi-dimensional qualities really do help me to navigate life personally from, lens of my spirituality and emotions and how I relate with other people. So Substack, I would say that is the one place. I think it's my name. I changed it. So,
Okay.
great, great work. I changed it to palette cleanser. So, throwback.
Okay.
I started a podcast a couple years ago that was called Palette Cleanser and again got caught up in work. And so I just figured I love to write more than I love to, like, be behind the mic. Although
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
experiences like these because I can yap
Hey, you do
all
great.
day. Um, but being able to, transform that and use that as a space for me to continue to talk about wine, continue to, write, and strengthen my pen. Substack for now is going to be the
Hmm.
main space. And then if you're in the Chicagoland area, stay tuned for the wine walks that are coming in May. Yeah, they'll be in
Mate.
May this year. Yeah, late May, early June. And yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, if there's anybody, who loves to yap about wine and culture, I'm your gal. So yeah, just continuing to have fun with wine. I think that's really been a major goal for me, especially most recently. It's just like to get back to having fun.
Definitely, definitely got to continue to have fun, I mean, especially in this world. Find the good in what we can.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to underscore just how incredible this conversation has been. You've enlightened me to some things, and hopefully as well for the listeners, you're able to see the passion that she has for her space. This has been a wonderful one. I came into this conversation as a wine lover, hoping to learn, and I'm leaving with more than just that. Your story from Evanston to Madrid to becoming one of the most respected voices in wine culture is the definition of what this show is about. And so, for everybody watching, make sure you go and follow Chasity, as she mentioned, on Instagram by Chasity Cooper on Instagram. Check out our website, chastitycooper.com. We'll put all the information down below. I mean, also, I didn't get a chance. Are you still selling the Wine Convo Generator
Yes, the Wine
books?
Convo
I'll
Generator.
give you a chance to talk about that. Yeah,
Yeah, everywhere. It actually turns 2. Thank you for bringing that up. It's
definitely.
turning 2 in March, so I'll probably do something around that. Yep, March 12th. Yeah, available where books are sold. Amazon, Target, Walmart. You might be able
Mm-hmm.
to find it in a couple of, what is that, Anthropology? Yeah, Anthropology
Anthropology.
locations. So yeah, definitely go out and buy, or you can go directly to Chronicle Books and, buy yourself a copy or, buy a whole bunch and just give them out to people.
I love that. Love this. I'm in the company of some good authors. Chassie, I thank you so much for being in good company. This has been a wonderful one. We may have a part two one of these days. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how the In Good Company continues to grow. I thank you all for supporting, and we'll see you all on the next one.